The White House threatening to yank security clearances from 6 Obama-era intel officials.
Not only is the president looking to take away Brennan's security clearance, he's also looking into the clearances of Comey, Clapper, Hayden, Rice, and McCabe.
President Trump getting major backlash from the media over his tough words to the Iranian president.
The leadership of a country like Iran seems more stable and rational than the president.
It's a distraction.
It's time to take a strong stand against the Iranians. They have blood on their hands. There's a lot of our service members that have died on the battlefield.
Congress is fighting to get those FISA documents declassified.
They buried and concealed vital information.
President Trump welcomed to the White House a shining array of U.S. manufacturers, business owners, and ag producers.
We're here today to celebrate the greatest products in the world. When I was growing up, I'd see Made in America all over the place.
2,000 country stations, yeah, we're one big country nation, that's right.
Little Brad Paisley to wake you up this morning, Country Nation. We've had him on the show before.
Well, yeah, maybe they're running that because at the top of the 7 o'clock hour, you said, Good Morning Nation.
Good Morning Nation. Now, Brad Paisley, or as I like to refer to him, the husband of the gal in Father of the Bride, Part 1 and 2.
Yes.
Well, there you go. That's one way to think about it. Todd is in because Brian is out. Brian should be back tomorrow right here on the couch.
Love having you in.
It's great being here.
Done a great job. All right, the White House threatening to yank security clearance from Obama-era intel officials.
Yeah, they're concerned that they used it for political and financial gains.
Okay, Griff Jenkins is down in Washington, D.C. And Griff, this is a flashpoint for people on both sides of the political aisle.
That's right, guys. You know, both sides have very differing views. One sees a president trying to politicize security clearances. The other sees former Obama intelligence officials abusing their power. Either way, you got to look at how we got here. Former CIA Director John Brennan, who now earns a living as a national security analyst for another network, accused the president of treason after the Helsinki summit. That prompted Senator Rand Paul to accuse Brennan of monetizing his clearance, and he's spoken to the president about it.
Had a great conversation with the president. I've been very concerned about John Brennan, anyone who's calling basically the president treasonous, which would require the death penalty, is someone that is over the top and not showing the proper judgment to still have access to classified information.
Now the White House is exploring clearance removals from not only Brennan, but also these that you see here, Comey, McCabe, Clapper, Rice, and Hayden. This causing Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi to weigh in.
I have been in the meetings for over 20 years. This is so extraordinary. The last thing you want in intelligence is partisanship.
Now, Brennan says he hasn't made a penny off his clearance. Comey and McCabe reportedly no longer have clearance. Clapper calls it petty, and Hayden tweeted this: I don't go back for classified briefings. Won't affect what I say or write. Finally, for some context, guys, it's important to remember that retaining clearances does not mean that these officials will have automatic access to current intelligence, but rather they could be consulted for some context into an evolving threat.
That's right. Griff, thank you very much. Or they could wind up working for a private contractor, a defense contractor, and use that intel that they've gathered for their own personal benefit. And that is one of the reasons why yesterday Sarah Huckabee Sanders said, when asked, wouldn't it violate these people's First Amendment rights if you essentially punish them for having a different point of view? And she said that the president does not like the fact that they are politicizing or monetizing their security clearances and those agencies that they work for.
Well, he said, why should they make money on baseless accusations? They're accusing me of colluding with Russia. That didn't happen. Rand Paul goes on to say we need to take it a step further. Anyone who retires from CIA or the intelligence community does not need to have security clearances. He said when he was talking about Brennan, he shouldn't get anywhere within 10,000 yards of the government. He should have a restraining order. He leaked information. And he also said that the president is treasonous.
Yeah, that First Amendment argument is comical on so many levels because you have the opportunity to say what you want wherever you want on any network you want. Right. You just don't have the security clearance. One person who pointed that out was Greg Jarrett. He wrote about that yesterday, and he also wrote a new book. We had him on to talk about that. And in his book and in his interview here, he explained that in his estimation, John Brennan is a dangerous and partisan individual. Here's what he had to say just moments ago.
John Brennan's a dangerous guy. He's a hyper-partisan, always has been a Clinton sycophant, and it is dangerous to allow a guy like that, as well as Clapper and Comey, who are partisans, to have security clearance. They can use the classified information they can still gain for political purposes. Nobody should have security clearance after they leave the government, except for former presidents who were often consulted on critical issues.
Well, that's his opinion, but we have talked extensively about a number of people on that list of 6 who, when they were in the administration, they lied and leaked. And if it was against the law, they should have gone after them at that point. But I don't think the Obama administration was had an appetite for that.
We're partisan
sure,
as well.
But anyone who weaponized intel, national intel, to try to destroy candidate Trump or President Trump, if they had that at their disposal, they should be punished in some form, right or wrong. Email us, friends@foxnews.com.
Well, right or wrong, agree or disagree, the president does have the right to do it.
100%.
Yeah. All right. In other news, the president was criticized at the beginning of the week about Iran, yesterday about Iran, because the Iranian president said one thing to our administration, and then our president fought back. He was heavily criticized for that. But that's exactly what happened with North Korea. Remember, the left was saying, oh, my gosh, this is going to cause a nuclear war. Why are we talking tough with North Korea? Then the president, they're calling each other names. They finally sit down together. They shake hands. We never thought we would see that photo opportunity.
Right.
And now we're getting word. These satellite images are coming in showing that North Korea is dismantling its main missile engine test site, a sign that North Korea is fulfilling its promises to the United States.
Okay, so after the president sent out that tweet that was in all caps, which in the parlance that means he's yelling at Iran, a number of people said he's just provoking them, he's going to get us into trouble. But we had a guy by the name of Major Ed Polito on about an hour ago, and Ed lost his leg to an Iranian IED when he was in the Middle East. And he looked at this tweet from the president, and he was influenced by it, and he said, finally, we've got a president who's going after these people who have deserved this for a long time. Listen to this.
President Trump's tweet was about making sure that America stands tall for not only our service members, but for the American people. We have to make sure that we're finally leading with strength and that we're holding them accountable for their actions. And so for us, we have no issues with the Iranian people. Our issue is making sure that this regime is basically put on notice that, you know what, President Trump doesn't play around when it comes to foreign policy.
And Ed says that Iran has blood on their hands, and in fact has his blood on their hands.
And as you pointed out earlier, Steve, remember, we had some pretty tough rhetoric from the president with regard to North Korea just last year, the whole little Rocket Man thing. And then, as we just showed, there could be some dismantling of nuclear weapons. Good. Step one in the process, obviously a long process. We're not spiking the football, but again, we needed a step. This is a step one. Who knows what will happen with Iran?
All right. Meanwhile, let's talk politics a little bit. You know, it was a couple of weeks ago here in New York where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez electrified the Democratic Party because she beat the fourth most senior Democrat in the House, Joe Crowley. Her message was clear. She is a socialist, and in her district, enough people came out to vote for her. Now, the Democratic Party is trying to figure out, okay, what should we stand for? She's getting a lot of publicity. Everybody's inviting her on the show. Everybody wants to talk to her. She went out with Bernie Sanders to one of the districts in Kansas over the weekend. Should we be more like her or more like the establishment? Well, the latest numbers regarding Democrats from a new NBC Wall Street Journal suggest they better figure out something, because right now they're going in the wrong direction.
This was the question that they asked the people that they were polling. Are Democrats in the mainstream or out of step with American thinking? And look at 2016 compared to 2018. So 2 years ago, 42% said that Democrats were out of step. Now, 56% say that Democrats are out of step.
That's right. So 14% of Americans, registered voters, that is to say now Democrats are out of step. That's the wrong direction. And are they mainstream? 15% less say they're mainstream, so they're going the wrong direction. When you look at the Republican numbers are slightly better than they were 2 years ago, but still, you can see that the Democrats have some work to do. They've got to figure out a message other than we're not the Republicans.
Yeah, and the point of these polls is to show the trend. down 14, up 2%. That's a huge trend. And I think it really does coincide with the rise of your Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Abolish ICE movement, the Open Borders movement that we've really just seen take hold over the course of, quite frankly, the last few months is really when it's hit its stride.
Well, she is way to the political left.
Right.
She's way out there. We had John Daniel Davidson from the Federalist on with us in the last hour or so, and he said the message to Democrats and the electorate should not be, we're way over to the left, we're more in the middle. Watch.
Democrats could put together a majority coalition right now, given Trump's unpopularity among independents and Democrats, if they would just compromise on a few key issues, like abortion, for example, or maybe go easy on the socialism. But they're not willing to do that. They have this doctrinaire mindset about every single policy proposal, and that if you're not on board with every single idea, then you're out, and your vote doesn't matter, and they're never going to put together a national majority political coalition.
He was saying that that didn't work in 2016 because Hillary Clinton thought she was going to win. She didn't campaign in certain states, didn't necessarily appeal to a lot of the independents because independents were the ones that decided. So, Democrats, it seems, are very split. You have the socialist group on, one side, very, very far left, and then you have the more moderates.
But you need the independents in the middle. So who are they going to go to? The socialists or the Republicans?
Well,
those are the two choices.
Well, when she won here in this area, that's not shocking because it's the Northeast, very, very liberal. The socialist message might work. But now they're using her to campaign for individuals in the heartland.
One thing America is unified in. Their love of Jillian Mealy. She has your headlines right now.
I guess it depends on the day, though, really.
Wow, I'm trying to give you a compliment. You just
I know. I just try and fire back a little bit. Good morning, guys. So we're following a number of stories, starting with this Fox News alert. The Israeli military shooting down a Syrian jet infiltrating its airspace. The IDF intercepting the fighter jet after it allegedly flew through the Golan Heights, which is near the border with Syria. The Israeli military firing 2 Patriot missiles to bring it down. This is the first time that Israel has shot down a Syrian jet in 4 years. Also breaking right now, storms turned deadly on the East Coast. A woman killed when wind and rain toppled a tree, sending it smashing into her home outside D.C. And then look at this video near Philadelphia. Downpours flooding homes and stranding drivers. The rain also causing chaos out west. In Colorado, roads turning into raging rivers. The water causing mudslides south of Denver. Brand new sketches just released showing 2 men who authorities believe are unidentified victims of serial killer John Wayne Gacy. Police hoping to identify the 2 males, right now known as John Doe 10 and John Doe 13. Neither of them believed to be older than 21 when they were killed. Gacy was executed for killing 33 young men between 1972 and 1978. 8 of those victims were unidentified at the time of his arrest. And that's a look at your headlines. I'll send it to you.
That gives me chills.
I know.
That's
all
one
right.
of the stories.
Thank you, Jillian.
Thanks, Jillian. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo pardoning illegals so that they can't be deported. And then he went one step further, targeting the Trump administration.
They are on a jihad to deport as many people as they can.
Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Kevin McElhaney is here to respond next.
And this couple's destination? Romance. The lovebirds on a train, now going viral. Their story.
The love train.
Coming up.
This administration is on a crusade against people who they do not consider original Americans. What they've done at the border is an example of it, what they've done in Puerto Rico. And they are on a jihad to deport as many people as they can who they believe are not in the United States legally.
There you've got Democratic New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo taking his attacks on the president's border policies one step further after pardoning a number of criminal illegals to prevent them from being deported. Joining us right now, Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Kevin McElhaney. Good morning to you, Kevin.
Good morning, Steve.
It's got to be frustrating when, you're a law enforcement guy, when politicians, for whatever reason, political or otherwise, decide, you know what, these people have been selected to be deported because they've broken the law, and we're not going to do it.
Right. I mean, Homeland Security depends on good collaboration with state and local law enforcement. It's essential. So for our ICE partners to be able to work with state and local jurisdictions to make sure that people that are dangerous to communities are deported, that's really important.
And that's one of the frustrations with places like the sanctuary cities, the sanctuary states, where you want to do your job.
Right.
And I'm sure there are men and women in law enforcement in those states and in those cities. They want to help out as well, but for political purposes, they decide not to.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So what's going on our southern border right now? Because so much talk these days is about the illegal immigration and people sneaking across the border. What are the numbers looking like?
We're still seeing about 1,000 a day crossing our border illegally between ports of entry and another 200 to 300 arriving without documents at ports of entry. So the numbers are still significant.
Okay. So how many of the 1,000 are you able to stop?
Well, those are the apprehensions we're making. Our Border Patrol agents working very hard, RGV, Rio Grande Valley, and South Texas, as well as in Arizona, and across the whole border.
Okay. So we know the president has a zero tolerance policy, as does the Attorney General. Of the 1,000 that you stop, what's happening to them? Are you just turning them around and saying, okay, go back that way?
No. For the single adults, we're prosecuting at a higher level than we've ever done before. We've more than quadrupled prosecutions from the prior administration right now with the Department of Justice support. So we're doing about 55% of all single adults are being prosecuted now. That's an extra sanction that provides a deterrent for future crossing.
So the loopholes have got to be driving you crazy.
Well, for families and children, there's just very little that we can do. On the border security side, we can apprehend people. We can try to rescue them. We do 3,000 rescues a year. But then they go into the system where they can't be effectively deported because they're released.
Okay, so I think the president and the Attorney General were talking about putting more judges on our southern border so that as soon as somebody is arrested, say it's a family unit, you can keep them together so you don't release them because, 90% of the people never come back for their trial date or their hearing date.
Definitely. A much better system would allow us to keep families together. The Attorney General is working on hiring about 100 judges this calendar year, which will augment the capability a great deal.
Well, let's see how it goes. Kevin, we thank you very much for your service, and thanks for giving us a status report.
Absolutely.
All right. Meanwhile, 8:20 here in New York City, President Trump celebrating companies making products right here in the U.S. of A. One CEO showcase at the White House is going to join us live coming up next. Plus, Ben Shapiro, you love his podcast. He's on the TV show coming up.
Thank God I'm American.
24 minutes after the hour now, we are back with Fox News alerts from around the world. First, at least 49 people are dead as wildfires rage in Greece. Cars and nearly 100 homes destroyed near Athens. More than 700 people have been evacuated, some packing into small boats, desperate to get away. 600 firefighters working to stop the flames. Also breaking right now, several people dead, hundreds missing after a hydroelectric dam collapses in Laos. According to local reports, it was under construction when it collapsed overnight. The raging water washing away everything in its path, including houses. More than 6,000 people now homeless in that Southeast Asian country. Ainsley, over to you.
All right, thank you, Todd. President Trump hosting his second annual Made in America event at the White House, highlighting some U.S. companies and their American-made products.
We're here today to celebrate the greatest products in the world. When I was growing up, I'd see Made in America all over the place. A little bit made in the USA, but Made in America. Everything had Made in America. And we're starting that again, and it's happening again. Products made with American heart, American sweat, and American pride.
Joining us now is one of the business owners who was part of the showcase, the CEO of Ann Clark Cookie Cutters, Mr. Ben Clark. Hey, Ben, great to see you.
Oh, good morning, Ainsley. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. I bet you're better than I am. How exciting.
I really am. Oh,
what
it was unbelievable.
Like?
It was phenomenal. The energy, you're at the center of the world's power. It was spectacular.
Can you describe it for us? We've seen the videos, but we have, it's better if it's described by someone who was there.
I mean, we were sort of behind the scenes all day. We got to walk around the whole main floor. And it was really interesting talking to intern staffers and some of the people that work there full time. Everybody's excited. Everybody's driven. I remember talking to a Marine officer, and even she said every time she comes there, she gets goose pimples. They said it's just incredible to work there. And everybody's driven to make America better.
Right, yes. I know. I've been to the White House, and when you step foot on that soil, it's just so surreal no matter how many times you go. We saw some pictures of the cookies that you make. Tell us about your business.
So my parents started the business back in '89. My mom's an artist. My dad is a businessman. And they began to grow, going to gift shops and things. And then I really wanted to move back to Vermont to raise my kids there. So we came back 20 years ago and began growing the business. About 6 years ago, we really got on a kick to say, wait a minute, we can take this business from China. 10 years ago, this business was all Chinese cookie cutters. And today, we're the leading manufacturer in the world. So we've actually taken the business back from China.
Wow,
it's
that's
exciting.
great. How has this administration helped your business?
Well, I think it's interesting, sort of the turmoil they're causing in the business world. It's a disruptive force, so it's making people start to really think about, hey, why are we buying products from China? Why don't we buy them from the United States? I think there's a little concern: is my product going to get a tariff put on it? And we're hoping to see some more clients or more customers that are buying from our competitor to say, hey, maybe we should buy American-made cookie cutters. So we're pretty positive about it.
What's your message to the general public, to all of our viewers that are watching, when they have a choice? We all have choices as to what we can buy. Why is it so important to buy American-made?
You know, when somebody in China makes a cookie cutter or makes another product, those employees don't buy American products. When an American manufacturer makes something, they're paying Americans, and those Americans go out to buy other products. So it keeps the economy moving.
All right, so if we want to buy cookie cutters, what's your website?
Our website is AnnClarkCookieCutters.com.
And is Ann your mom?
Ann is my mom.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for being with us. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ansley.
You're welcome. Well, the media is melting down over President Trump's comments on Iran.
I know we ask this a lot, but this one seems like a pretty blatant distraction.
This is kind of what all of us in the media and all analysts that I've spoken to always feared would happen.
Ben Shapiro says this act from the left is tiring, and he joins us live next. Plus, this illegal immigrant escaped ICE custody at the airport moments before he was set for deportation. And now he could dodge jail time, too.
We've got a Fox News alert and some breaking news. The Israeli military has shot down a Syrian jet which infiltrated Israeli airspace.
This as Syrian forces reached the Golan Heights frontier for the first time in 7 years.
Connor Powell live from Jerusalem with the breaking details. Connor.
Well, good morning. Well, as the Assad regime and Russia have consolidated territory around Syria the last few months, the one area they've avoided until recently was their southern border along with Israel. But we've seen increased government presence and fighting there in the last couple weeks, and that fighting there is beginning to spill over into Israel. Just a short while ago, a Syrian jet, according to the Israeli government, crossed about 2 kilometers into Israeli airspace, and Israel fired 2 Patriot missiles in response. And they say they hit that jet and that it's now crashed back in Syrian territory, but they did shoot it after it crossed into Israeli airspace. And just yesterday, we saw 2 Syrian missiles be fired towards Israel. Neither landed in Israel, but there were a lot of concerns. Alarm bells were activated in northern Israel yesterday. What we're seeing is this increased presence in the Syrian government targeting rebels along that border, and it does appear to be spilling over, although there also is the possibility that the Syrian government is also sort of sending a message to Israel. Israel has supported the Syrian rebels along their northern border, and there is a lot of anger in Damascus for their help. Just a couple days ago, the United Nations and Israel helped get the white helmets, who Syria and Russia view as terrorists, out of Syria. So there's a lot going on in this border, but it is becoming a very dangerous situation up there right now.
It is indeed a lot of tension. Connor Powell, thank you very much with the breaking news that the Israeli military has shot down a Syrian jet that strayed into Israeli airspace.
All right, let's hand it over to Jillian for some more headlines for us. Jillian?
That's right. Good Tuesday morning. There is a growing push for a state lawmaker to step down after a disturbing appearance on Sacha Baron Cohen's new TV show. Georgia Republican Jason Spencer is shown yelling racial slurs repeatedly. During another segment, he lowers his pants. Republican Governor Nathan Deal called the actions, quote, appalling and offensive. The state's Republican House Speaker now calling on Spencer to resign immediately. The show, called Who is America, has been slammed by critics for deceiving officials from both parties. The Boston Marathon bomber could avoid the death penalty if his lawyers get their way. The Boston Globe reporting that lawyers have filed a brand new motion that says they found 30 reasons why Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's 2015 death sentence should be thrown out. 3 people, including an 8-year-old boy, were killed in the April 2013 attacks. Tsarnaev was convicted for planting bombs at the finish line with the help of his brother, who was killed in a shootout with police. This violent immigrant could walk free after escaping from ICE officials at the airport. According to the New York Post, prosecutors used the wrong statute to charge the man from Senegal. The ex-con was being deported back to his native country when he escaped from officers at New York's JFK airport. He somehow made it outside and jumped into a taxi. He was arrested in Chicago 3 days later. Take a look at your screen. Have you seen these precious lovebirds? The search is on to find the adorable couple spotted snuggling up to one another on a New York City subway train. Someone actually snapped the picture and posted it to Facebook, asking for help tracking them down so he could give them a copy. The photographer says he hopes to have something as magical as they have one day. They seem to have anyway.
That's awesome.
Isn't that a great photo?
Yeah.
Hashtag loves birds on train.
It's unreal.
That's great.
The love train.
Thank you very much. All right, Janice Dean is not far from the subway entrance at this hour, and she joins us from a very hazy, hot, and humid New York City.
That's one of my favorite stories. I love it. Are you guys ready to be on TV? Oh my gosh, what are your names real quick?
Clara. Melissa.
From Virginia?
Virginia, Stafford, Virginia.
Nice. What's your name?
Michael from Tennessee. Anthony from Tennessee. Dylan from Louisiana.
All right, and?
Sam from Aiken.
All right, Sam from Aiken. We've got a 25th anniversary here. Congratulations. Nicely done. Let's take a look at the maps real quick. It's a little humid here in New York City, but no rain right now. 77 is the forecast, or rather the current temperatures. We do have the potential for rain along the coast. Okay, so flash flooding is going to be a probability if you live in portions of the mid-Atlantic up towards the northeast, so just be real careful if you live in these areas. All right, wave, everybody. Oh, my gosh, what's your name, young lady?
Lucy.
Hi, Lucy. Say hi to Fox and Friends.
Hi, Lucy.
Hi, everyone.
Yay, what a great crowd.
Thanks, Janice.
All right, coming up on this Tuesday, the media melting down over President Trump's comments on Iran.
I know we ask this a lot, but this one seems like a pretty blatant distraction.
This is kind of what all of us in the media and all analysts that I've spoken to always feared would happen.
Ben Shapiro says this from the left is tiring, and he will be live to explain himself coming up next.
Plus, there's nothing like a cool glass of lemonade on a hot summer day. Well, now there's a movement to keep children's stands from getting shut down. You'll meet some of the grown-ups and the kids behind it. It's all coming up.
Good morning to you and welcome back. And we have a warning. If these snacks are in your pantry, they could get you sick. Pepperidge Farms recalling 4 varieties of Goldfish crackers due to a possible salmonella risk. The company is concerned about a whey powder in the seasoning. And your wine may be radioactive. French researchers warning California red wine made after 2011 could have particles from the meltdown of Japan's Fukushima nuclear plant. The good news, the levels aren't dangerous. So I guess you can drink away. Down to you guys.
Jillian, thank you very much.
Jillian.
Oh, man. Wine-wise. All right, let's talk a little bit about this. Remember about a year ago when the president was engaged with Kim Jong-un regarding what was going on over in North Korea? He was calling him Little Rocket Man, you know, my button's bigger than your button, all that stuff. People were going, I can't believe that the president of the United States would talk to a world leader like that. He's going to get us into a shooting war. Fast forward to yesterday when the president of the United States, in all caps, was criticizing the leader of Iran, talking about, you know, don't threaten us or we're going to come after you and you will really regret it. Well, so many people just don't get, after a year and a half of this presidency, this president operates different than any other president we have seen in modern history.
Yeah, we're seeing signs now that North Korea is fulfilling the promises that they have made to the United States. Whether or not we'll see that in Iran or in Russia, that's yet to be determined. But what we're learning, based on these satellite images that we just got, that North Korea is dismantling its main missile engine test site.
That's great.
We've come a long way since Little Rocket Man.
It could be reversible, but nonetheless, it is a good faith effort because it was 6 weeks ago that they had the handshake over in Singapore, and people are going, well, nothing's happening. Well, now the news is they're starting to take that thing apart.
But nevertheless, despite all that, the mainstream media is going absolutely bonkers over this. Liberal left out of their mind, calling this the worst thing to ever happen. Rush Limbaugh had a really interesting take on this. And of course, like everything, it's tied to Russia. Take a listen.
The drive-bys are now obsessed, for the moment, with Trump and his all-caps tweets to President Rouhani of Iran, who is continuing to shout death through America here and death through America there. And Trump's had it. We don't laud over anybody. We just be who we are. There's no shame in becoming a superpower. Iran, good bet, is Russia's #1 client state at this point in time. Pretty hard to reconcile Trump's tweets with the claim that Trump is Putin's puppet. Trump is aggressively challenging Russia's puppet client state in the Middle East. How in the world is this acting as Putin's puppet?
Putin's puppet in the pocket of Putin and things like that. I can't tell you how many people I heard on television yesterday who said, yesterday being Monday, that the President of the United States sent out that tough-talking tweet regarding Iran because he was trying to essentially wag the dog, change the subject, because there was so much bad publicity last week after the fallout from the Helsinki summit with Mr. Putin.
Well, I think a lot of people, what I'm hearing is look at the big picture. And if you look at Middle America and you look at the areas that are President Trump's base, they support what he's doing. Yes, there was criticism after Helsinki because he misspoke. But if you look at the big picture, to sit down with some of these leaders and these leaders that have control of nuclear weapons that we don't necessarily need on our bad side, we don't need them to be enemies, just to sit down is a step in the right direction.
Let's bring in Ben Shapiro right now to have him weigh in on this. He's the editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire and the host of the aptly named Ben Shapiro Show. Ben, what did you make of all that mainstream media madness yesterday?
Well, I think that the media are constantly turning the dial all the way up to 11 on the Spinal Tap scale. And that means that it's very difficult for us to actually determine when something terribly has gone wrong, because apparently everything is going wrong all the time. And it's that scene from Animal House where Kevin Bacon is standing in the foreground telling everybody not to worry as everything's on fire. Except the truth is that nothing is really on fire, although the media would have you believe that everything is.
But when you look at the president's rhetoric, he has talked tough regarding North Korea a year ago, but that ultimately, Ben, resulted in a sit-down with the leader of North Korea 6 weeks ago. Now he's talking tough with the leader of Iran, and it's not quite to the fire and fury level of rhetoric, but nonetheless, given the fact that their economy has imploded, the rial has dropped by 50% over the last couple of months, Iran, for them, it's time to do something.
Well, the president did unleash caps lock, which I believe in Twitter speak is actually DEFCON 2. So that means that we all should be on our toes here. But again, I think the president is not one to abide by the Teddy Roosevelt school of diplomacy that speaks softly and carry a big stick. It's tweet loudly and then do something. And it depends what the something is, right? Sometimes the something is militant. Sometimes it's him flinging a missile into Syria when Assad is gassing children. And sometimes it's sitting down with the person he was ripping on 5 seconds ago. So the president has always said that he is very into strategic unpredictability. And he's been true to his word on that.
You're right about that.
So the New York governor yesterday, Andrew Cuomo, had a press conference, and he announced that he's going to pardon 7 more people who are facing deportation in December. Evidence. That's right. December, he pardoned 18 individuals. This is the 3rd group that he's pardoned. And he said this. Listen.
This administration is on a crusade against people who they do not consider original Americans. What they've done at the border is an example of it, what they've done in Puerto Rico. And they are on a jihad to deport as many people as they can who they believe are not in the United States legally.
Ben, what do you think about that, accusing the Trump administration of waging jihad against illegals?
First of all, why isn't anyone accusing Andrew Cuomo of Islamophobia? I thought that jihad only meant internal struggle, so there's that. Also, when he says that President Trump is waging war against illegal immigrants. I'm old enough to remember when the Obama administration was bragging that they had increased the number of deportations. Now, they were lying about that because what they actually were doing was just turning more people away at the border. But the fact is that strictness when it comes to our border enforcement is actually a pretty popular policy among most Americans. And if President Trump is attempting to deport all of the illegal immigrants who are in the country right now, if he's actually waging a war against them, he's doing a pretty poor job of it, considering that 11 million illegal immigrants are still living in the country.
Good point.
Andrew Cuomo rules the halls of Albany. Speaking of Albany, State University of New York at Albany. And this is going to be right up your sleeve because obviously you're a big speaker on college campuses. Last year, 64 speakers identified as liberal. Only 2 conservative. Again, the entire academic year. So 2 out of a total of 66. What say you?
Well, it's an echo chamber, and all of these universities have basically become echo chambers where, because everybody lives in this ivory tower where all they do is talk with people who agree with them, they start to believe their own opinions are fact. So what they will tell you is the reason there are no conservatives on campus is because conservatives just don't speak the truth. Well, once you start believing that your opinion is the truth, it makes it very difficult to hear any other opinion.
Well, clearly they're not inviting conservatives, Ben, because you're so scary.
You are scary, Ben.
No, I'm so bewildered by all of this. I mean, I've been told by everyone that I'm so scary, and my wife doesn't think I'm that scary, so that's a new one.
But where does this come from? Is it the times that these professors grew up, that now that they're in charge and they're talking to students about this, that they have convinced everybody, guys like you are scary? Or where does that narrative come from? We should not have conservatives speaking on campus? Or is it just that they take a poll and they said, well, we voted and, nobody wanted to hear you?
I do think that it's an ideological blind spot. I think that a lot of people on campus believe that their opinion is the truth. And so when it comes to things, for example, like tax policy, they think that Keynesianism has been proved, and therefore anybody who disagrees with that is actually speaking untruth to the students, that their bubble of truth has been violated by the outside world, and that has to stop, according to them.
Okay, I know that there's a heat wave in the Southwest. I saw that the headline today on Drudge is that California Power is asking Californians during the heat wave, please turn off your lights and electricity. Are you living by that?
No, because I would die. It's 120 degrees out here. Nobody's living by that. That's why there's going to be rolling brownouts, just like there are every single year, because we will not build any new upgrades to the power grid or build any new nuclear factories that will actually create the power necessary for people in Southern California to live decently. Jeez.
Well, then it's a good idea that you show up on TV at, let's see, 5:50 in the morning before the sun comes out. All right. Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks,
Great
Ben.
to see you.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. There's nothing like a cool glass of lemonade on a hot summer day, and now there's a movement to keep children's lemonade stands from getting shut down. You're going to meet some of the grown-ups and the children behind it coming up next.
But first, let's check in with Bill Hemmer, who is a grown-up, with a preview of what happens on the channel shortly.
Some
Yes,
days
sir.
more an adult than others. Good morning. Breaking overnight is North Korea starting to take apart its nuclear program. We'll tell you what we know about that this morning. Israel shot down a Syrian jet. What happened and what will happen next there? President hits the road in a few moments. Where he's going tells us a lot about the vote in November, so look out for that. Peter King's our headliner. The 18's ready to take on 2020. See you in a few minutes. 9 to noon coming up in 10 minutes.
Well, listen to this. Grown-ups across the nation are banding together, fighting for children's right to sell lemonade from lemonade stands. This year, many were shut down because they did not have proper permits that generally are for actual businesses and not kids' lemonade stands.
Denver mom Jennifer Knowles created an advocacy group to change the laws after her kid's lemonade stand was shut down.
Lemonade Stand Mama founder Jennifer Knowles joins us now from Denver, and joining us live on the plaza is Brian Guadagna. And then we also have 14-year-old Taylor Thomas, who sells lemonade here in New York. Thank you all for being with us. Jennifer, we'll start with you. Tell us your story and why you got this movement started.
Absolutely. Well, over Memorial Day, my 3 little boys decided they wanted to have a lemonade stand. We set a lemonade stand up in the park across the street from our house, and somebody complained, and 2 police came and shut down the lemonade stand. And they told us that we needed multiple permits, and my boys were devastated. We had no idea that that's permits were required. I had just wanted to teach my kids charity and entrepreneurship, valuable lessons of a lemonade stand. And when we got shut down by the police, it raised a lot of questions that lemonade stands were not legal. I had no idea.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, Jennifer, it's just one of those things where code enforcement is trying to live by the letter of the law, but some of the rules are a little silly when it comes to a lemonade stand. I mean, we all grew up, we all had a lemonade stand. Yep. Although, Brian, the lemonade was not $2.
Our prices were 25 cents.
Well, this is good lemonade.
That's a good salesman right there.
This is worth it.
So, Brian, tell us about your group.
So, Lemonade Day Brooklyn is facing a lot of the same issues. With setting up lemonade stands in the city, there are obviously licenses, permits that you have to get, and we're trying to make it so kids throughout the city can do the same thing, because this is the youth American dream here.
Are politicians listening?
I hope so. I hope they're listening.
Because it's just one of those, right, Jennifer, it's just one of those things when you were a kid, you want to make some money during the summer that you can go buy new school clothes or, stuff. And a lemonade stand's a good way to do it, Jennifer.
Absolutely. You think of a lemonade stand, and you think of the values that and the principles that this country was founded upon. Having your own business, entrepreneurship, absolutely. They're all good things can come from lemonade stands, childhood lemonade stands.
And you get to know your neighbors and your community.
Hey, we're gonna have some more lemonade after the break. Don't go anywhere. It's Taylor time coming up.
There's more lemonade.
That's delicious.
All right. Woo!
I'm gonna dump this in.
It's a simple